Alright, let's dive into the spine-chilling world of Willows Weep House, America's most haunted home. Have you ever wondered if haunted homes truly exist? Well, get ready to explore the mysteries that surround this infamous location. Willows Weep House is one of the most chilling and enigmatic locations in the world of ghost hunting. Famously dubbed America's most haunted home, it is nestled in the quiet town of Cayuga, Indiana. This unassuming house has gained notoriety for its dark history and spine-tingling paranormal activity. From its unique cross-shaped layout to the countless eerie encounters reported by visitors and investigators alike, Willows Weep holds a special place in the realm of the supernatural. Join us as we explore the mysteries, the legends, and the ghostly inhabitants that make this house a true cornerstone in the world of paranormal investigations. Prepare yourselves for a journey into the unknown. The house was built in the late 19th century, and its peculiar cross-shaped design is one of its most striking features. This layout has led some to speculate about its original purpose, with theories that range from having a religious significance to a more sinister intent. The home has seen 7 deaths, including 3 suicides. The original owner, John Henry Sykes, was found dead in the bathtub. Since then, there have been a number of deaths under mysterious circumstances, family tragedies, and some occupants have met untimely or violent ends, but more on those later. Previous owner Brenda Johnson abandoned the home after a series of violent attacks and mysterious accidents. She later sold the house to paranormal investigator Dave Spinks, who wrote a book about the Willows Weep House. Now, brace yourself for a journey into the chilling occurrences and ghostly sightings that have plagued Willows Weep House. From strange noises in the dead of night to apparitions roaming the halls, each event contributes to the house's haunted legacy. Visitors and investigators have reported several distinct types of ghosts and paranormal phenomena over the years. One of the most frequently encountered entities at Willows Weep are shadow figures. These dark human-like shapes are often seen moving quickly through the house, especially in the corners of rooms and hallways. They are typically described as having no discernible features and evoke a strong sense of dread in those who see them. Full-bodied apparitions have also been reported within the house. These ghostly figures appear more solid than shadow figures, and are often dressed in clothing that seems to be from different historical periods. Witnesses have described seeing a woman in white. This apparition is one of the most frequently mentioned. She is often seen wandering the halls or standing at the windows, sometimes appearing to be weeping or in distress. Another commonly reported figure is a man wearing a hat, often seen in the same areas as the woman in white. He is described as having a stern and imposing presence. Some visitors have reported hearing the laughter and footsteps of children, despite no children being present in the house. Occasionally, small figures resembling children have been seen playing or running through the rooms. In addition to visual sightings, many people have reported hearing disembodied voices throughout the house. These voices often sound like whispers, conversations, or cries. Some have also heard inexplicable sounds such as knocking, banging, and the sound of furniture moving. There have been accounts of poltergeist activity, including objects moving on their own, doors opening and closing, and items being thrown across rooms. This type of activity adds to the house's reputation for being intensely haunted. Some of the phenomena at Willows Weep are thought to be residual hauntings, where the energy of past events replays like a loop. For example, some witnesses have reported hearing repetitive sounds or seeing the same apparitions perform the same actions repeatedly. Visitors often describe experiencing sudden drops in temperature, feelings of being watched, or an overwhelming sense of sadness or fear in certain areas of the house. Some have even reported being touched, pushed, or scratched by unseen forces. There are also claims that the house may be haunted by spirits of individuals who met tragic ends within its walls, including possible victims of violent deaths or suicides. These spirits are believed to be tied to the house due to the intense emotional energy of their final moments. One of the most frequently mentioned is that of a man who reportedly took his own life in the house by hanging. This tragic event is believed to have left a residual imprint, contributing to the house's haunting. At least one story involves a family that lived in the house and experienced a series of unfortunate events, including the untimely deaths of family members. The negative energy from these deaths may have created psychic imprints. resulting in the various paranormal phenomena reported by visitors and investigators. Some theories suggest that occult practices might have been conducted in the house, further amplifying its haunted nature. These practices, if true, could have attracted or intensified the spiritual activity. Overall, the variety and intensity of the ghostly encounters at Willows Weep House make it a hotspot for paranormal activity and a compelling destination for those interested in the supernatural. But what about the investigations? Did the investigators run into any ghostly apparitions? Investigating Willows Weep House has not been without its challenges. Paranormal investigators and visitors have reported a range of obstacles and conflicts during their explorations of this famously haunted location. The very nature of Willows Weep's haunting often interferes with investigations. Paranormal teams frequently report that their electronic equipment, such as cameras, audio recorders, and EMF meters, malfunctions or drains rapidly without explanation. This can make it difficult to capture and document evidence of paranormal activity. Some investigators have experienced physical interactions such as being pushed, scratched, or having their hair pulled. Technical issues are a common occurrence during investigations at Willows Weep. Cameras, flashlights, and other battery-operated devices often experience sudden and unexplained battery drain, even when freshly charged. Investigators have reported that their devices, including audio recorders and video cameras, sometimes malfunction or fail to work properly while inside the house. This phenomenon is frequently reported in locations with high paranormal activity and can hinder the documentation process. The intense and often disturbing atmosphere of Willows Weep can have significant psychological impacts on investigators. Many investigators report an overwhelming sense of fear or anxiety while inside the house. This can be due to the oppressive atmosphere, sudden temperature drops, or the feeling of being watched. Some individuals have experienced sudden and intense emotions, such as sadness or anger, without any apparent cause. This emotional influence can be attributed to the residual energy within the house, and can make it challenging for investigators to remain focused and composed. After leaving Willows Weep, some investigators have reported experiencing nightmares or feeling a lingering sense of unease. These after effects suggest that the house's influence can extend beyond its physical boundaries. The physical condition of Willows Weep House can pose additional challenges. As an old building, the house has areas that are structurally unstable or unsafe, such as the attic door, which refuses to open, and the only way to access it is by using a ladder from outside. Despite these challenges, the enduring allure of Willows Weep House continues to draw paranormal investigators who are determined to uncover its secrets and document its paranormal activity. The obstacles faced only add to the house's mystique and the determination of those who seek to understand the supernatural phenomena within its walls. So what did the investigators find? Many investigators have captured EVPs, which are believed to be voices of spirits communicating through electronic devices. These recordings often contain unexplained whispers, cries, and spoken words that were not audible during the investigation. Numerous photographs and videos have captured orbs, shadow figures, and apparitions. Some images reveal human-like shapes that appear translucent or shadowy, and others show mysterious lights that move in erratic patterns. Significant fluctuations in electromagnetic fields, EMF, have been recorded throughout the house, particularly in areas where paranormal activity is frequently reported. These readings are often accompanied by temperature drops and sudden drafts, despite the absence of open windows or doors. Objects have been documented moving on their own, doors slamming shut, and furniture shifting without any apparent cause. Investigators have also reported being touched, scratched, or pushed by unseen forces. Some of the activity at Willows Weep is believed to be residual in nature. This theory suggests that past events, especially traumatic ones, have left an imprint on the environment, which replays like a loop without any conscious interaction from spirits. These imprints can manifest as apparitions, disembodied voices, and other paranormal phenomena. There is evidence to suggest that some of the entities in Willows Weep are intelligent and capable of interacting with the living. This includes responding to questions during EVP sessions, manipulating objects, and affecting the physical sensations of investigators. Some theories propose that natural elements such as underground water streams or mineral deposits might contribute to the heightened paranormal activity. These elements could generate energy that spirits use to manifest. The unique cross-shaped layout of the house is thought by some to influence the paranormal activity. This design could theoretically create or enhance energetic focal points, making the house more susceptible to hauntings. Paranormal investigators continue to monitor the house using advanced equipment to gather more data. This includes setting up 24/7 surveillance using infrared cameras and employing sensitive audio recording devices. Psychics and mediums frequently visit Willows Weep to communicate with the spirits and gain insight into their identities and reasons for remaining in the house. Their findings often correlate with historical research and eyewitness accounts. Efforts to uncover the full history of the house and its occupants are ongoing. This includes searching for records of previous owners, investigating reported deaths or violent events, and exploring any connections to occult practices. Willows Weep House has become a site of public interest, with tours and events being held to allow the public to experience the hauntings firsthand. This engagement not only helps fund continued research, but also brings in new eyewitness accounts and evidence. Some explanations consider the power of suggestion and the psychological impact of visiting a famously haunted location. The anticipation and fear of experiencing something paranormal can heighten the senses and lead to misinterpretations of natural phenomena. Factors such as carbon monoxide, mold, and other environmental contaminants can cause symptoms that mimic paranormal experiences, including hallucinations, dizziness, and a sense of being watched. High levels of EMF can affect the human brain, leading to experiences often interpreted as paranormal. The house's structural elements or electrical wiring might contribute to these elevated EMF levels. Despite these various findings and theories, the hauntings at Willows Weep House remain a mystery. Dave Spinks, current owner and paranormal investigator, recently announced in May of this year that after a series of spiritual attacks by some malicious force, he decided to have the house destroyed and the land cleared and blessed to rid the world of this negative location. The Willows Weep House is now permanently gone. Dave has promised to release more findings from his investigations of Willows Weep House in the near future, but for now he is focusing his attention on investigating another ghostly house he has recently purchased. We wish Dave all the best with his new property, and we look forward to more accounts of chilling encounters. And although the Willows Weep House is now gone, it will remain a compelling and mysterious landmark in the paranormal world. If you've been captivated by the chilling mysteries of Willows Weep House, we encourage you to delve even deeper into the world of paranormal investigations. This house is just one of many locations with rich histories and unexplained phenomena waiting to be explored. Here are a few ways you can continue your journey into the supernatural. Look up detailed articles, documentaries, and books that dive into the history and hauntings of Willows Weep House. The more you learn, the more you'll appreciate the complexity and depth of its mysteries, or why not join online communities where you can share your thoughts, ask questions, and read about others' experiences with Willows Weep and other haunted locations. Share your thoughts and experience in the comment below. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated on our latest videos. We'll be bringing you more deep dives into haunted locations, ghost hunting tips, and interviews with experts in the field. By diving deeper into the world of paranormal investigations, you're not just exploring ghost stories. You're joining a community of curious minds dedicated to uncovering the truth behind the unknown. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey today and let the adventure into the supernatural begin.
In the heart of suburban Long Island, on a quiet street in the town of Amityville, New York, sits an unassuming house. To those who pass by, it may look like any other home, quaint, colonial, perhaps even charming. But beneath the facade of white siding and green shutters lies a chilling history that has haunted this place for decades. This seemingly ordinary house, named High Hopes by its owners, became the site of one of the most infamous haunted tales in history. Join me as we delve into the terrifying events that unfolded at the Amityville house. In 1974, the Lutz family moved into a Dutch colonial-style house in Amityville, New York, only to be plagued by a series of disturbing occurrences. Their experiences would go on to inspire a best-selling book and a horror film franchise. But is the Amityville horror based on true events? This is 112 Ocean Avenue, a house that became infamous not just for a brutal crime, but for what followed. Dark forces, demonic whispers, and unrelenting terror. Welcome to the true story of the Amityville horror. It all began on November 13th, 1974. Ronald DeFeo Jr., a troubled 23-year-old, calmly walked into a local bar in Amityville and declared, "You gotta help me. I think my mother and father are shot." When authorities arrived at 112 Ocean Avenue, they uncovered a scene of unimaginable horror. 6 members of the DeFeo family had been brutally slain in their bed. The Suffolk County Police identified the dead persons as Ronald DeFeo Sr., 43, his wife Louise, 42, his daughters Dawn, 18, and Allison, 13, and sons Mark, age 12, and John Matthew, aged only 7 years old. All were shot at close range with a .235 caliber rifle. The police said that their bodies were discovered in their home at 112 Ocean Avenue by the oldest son, Ronald Jr., at about 6:15 p.m. He had just returned home from business, the police said. Strangely, there were no signs of a struggle. Each family member had been shot as they slept, undisturbed. Even more baffling, neighbors heard no gunshots. The rifle used had no silencer. Yet the night remained eerily silent. "Once I started, I just couldn't stop." The words of Ronald DeFeo Jr., who eventually confessed to the murders, claiming that voices in the house commanded him to kill his family. Voices that he believed weren't entirely human. DeFeo was reportedly a known LSD and heroin user with a history of making threats towards his father. Ronald DeFeo went on trial for the murders on October 14, 1975. His attorney argued for an insanity defense, but DeFeo was convicted on 6 counts of second-degree murder after he confessed to using a rifle to shoot and kill his mother and father, his 2 sisters and his 2 brothers, and was sentenced to 6 consecutive sentences of 25 years to life in prison. Ronald DeFeo died in March 2021 at age 69, while serving a life sentence at Sitges at the maximum security Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. He had made multiple appeals to the parole board throughout his prison term, but all were denied. Little did the new owners, George and Kathy Lutz, know, but just 1 year after the murders, they would become the subjects of one of the most famous hauntings in American history. In December 1975, the Lutz family moved into 112 Ocean Avenue, hoping to start a new chapter in their lives. But within 28 days, they would flee the house in terror, leaving behind all of their belongings. According to the Lutzes, strange phenomena began almost immediately. George would wake up at exactly 3:15 a.m. each morning, the same time the DeFeo murders had taken place. He became obsessed with the house's furnace, constantly stoking it, as if some unseen force was compelling him to do so. The family experienced unexplainable cold spots, foul odors that seemed to come from nowhere, and walls that oozed a strange green slime. Kathy Lutz claimed she was physically attacked by unseen forces, and on one occasion, she witnessed her face briefly transformed into that of an old hag in the bathroom mirror. Even their children weren't spared, with their personalities changing drastically, and one of them befriending an imaginary and disturbingly malevolent entity. But the most disturbing presence was one that George described as a dark figure, half man, half pig, with glowing red eyes that watched them from the shadows. He called it Jody. After just 28 days, the Lutz family fled their dream home, leaving behind everything they owned. They claimed they couldn't take another night of the torment, the dark presence, and the malevolent entities that seemed to grow stronger by the day. The Lutz's story sparked a media frenzy. Books, interviews, documentaries, and movies followed, each adding new layers of speculation and fear. The tale of the Amityville horror captured the imagination of a generation, but it also raised questions. Was it all true? Or was it an elaborate hoax designed to capitalize on the tragedy that had occurred just a year earlier? So, what do you think? Is the Amityville house truly haunted, or is it just a cleverly crafted myth? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe and join us as we hear more from the paranormal investigation.
The air in Adams, Tennessee was thick with fear. It clung to the town like cobwebs, catching on every whispered word and shared glance. Something wicked had taken root in their midst, something that defied explanation and chilled them to the bone. The stories spread like wildfire, leaping from farmhouse to general store, each telling more terrifying than the last. It was the tale of Kate Batts, a woman scorned, and the vengeance she wrought upon the Bell family. The story of Kate Batts and John Bell began long before the whispers of hauntings plagued the town. It was a tale woven into the fabric of Adams, a small community where secrets festered like wounds. John Bell, a man of ambition and drive, had carved his own path to prosperity, acquiring land and wealth, becoming a pillar of the community. But his success, it seemed, was not without its shadows, its whispers of ruthlessness and questionable dealings. Kate Batts, a woman hardened by life's trials, lived a solitary existence on the outskirts of town. She owned a small parcel of land, a meager inheritance that represented her only security in a world that offered little comfort. She was known for her sharp tongue and her distrust of outsiders, particularly those like John Bell, who seemed to possess an almost insatiable hunger for more. Their paths, so different, collided over a land dispute, a disagreement over boundaries and ownership. John Bell, it was rumored, had set his sights on Kate's land, believing it held the key to expanding his already considerable estate. He approached her with offers, some said, that were less than generous, his ambition overriding any sense of fairness or compassion. Kate, fiercely independent and wary of Bell's intentions, refused his advances. She clung to her land with an almost desperate tenacity, seeing it as her only shield against the encroaching greed of men like John Bell. Her refusal, however, only fueled Bell's determination, driving a wedge between them that would have lasting consequences. The dispute between John Bell and Kate Batts escalated, becoming a bitter feud that divided the town. Whispers followed John Bell, accusing him of using his influence to pressure and manipulate the elderly woman. Kate, in turn, became increasingly isolated, her distrust of Bell hardening into an all-consuming resentment. As tensions mounted, a darkness seemed to settle over the Bell farm. Animals fell ill, crops withered, and a palpable sense of unease permeated the air. Some whispered that Kate, driven to desperation, had turned to dark forces, calling upon ancient curses to exact revenge on the man who had wronged her. John Bell, however, dismissed these rumors as superstitious nonsense. He refused to believe that an old woman's curses could hold any real power. He continued to pursue his claim on Kate's land, confident that his will, backed by his wealth and influence, would ultimately prevail. But there was a shift in the atmosphere, a palpable tension that seemed to emanate from Kate Batts herself. Her eyes, once filled with a weary sadness, now burned with a cold fire, a look that sent shivers down the spines of those who crossed her path. The townsfolk, sensing a malevolence they couldn't quite comprehend, began to avoid the Bell farm, fearing that something wicked this way was coming. John Bell, undeterred by the growing unease and the whispers that followed him like shadows, finally succeeded in acquiring Kate Batts' land. The details of the transaction remained shrouded in rumor and speculation, but one thing was clear. Kate Batts felt cheated, robbed of her birthright by a man she believed to be heartless and driven by greed. The loss of her land seemed to break something within Kate. Her spirit, once resilient and defiant, withered, leaving behind a husk of bitterness and despair. She became a recluse, withdrawing further into herself, her silence more menacing than her former outbursts of anger. John Bell, seemingly triumphant, returned to his life of prosperity, seemingly unburdened by the plight of the old woman he had dispossessed. He dismissed the whispers of curses and ill omens as the idle chatter of superstitious minds, confident that his fortune was secure. But a darkness had settled over the Bell farm, a palpable chill that permeated the very walls of their home. The animals grew restless, their once placid demeanor replaced by an unnerving agitation. Objects began to move inexplicably, doors creaked open and slammed shut, and strange, disembodied whispers seemed to emanate from the shadows. John Bell, however, remained oblivious, blinded by his own ambition, and dismissive of the growing sense of dread that had enveloped his family. The news of Kate Batts' death spread through the town like wildfire, a morbid whisper carried on the wind. She was found in her dilapidated shack, her body frail and lifeless, her eyes fixed in a chilling stare. Some whispered that she died cursing John Bell's name, her final breath a venomous promise of retribution that would echo through the ages. The townsfolk, Though relieved by the passing of the woman who had become a symbol of misfortune and unease, couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. There was an unsettling stillness to the air, a pregnant silence that seemed to hum with unspoken menace. It was as if the very fabric of reality had thinned, allowing something dark and vengeful to seep through. John Bell, however, remained unmoved by the news of Kate's demise. He dismissed the talk of curses and hauntings as superstitious nonsense, clinging to the belief that his wealth and standing insulated him from such irrational fears. He saw no connection between the old woman's death and the strange occurrences that continued to plague his family. But as the sun began its final descent, casting long, eerie shadows across the Bell farm, a palpable chill settled over the land. A chorus of whispers, barely audible at first, seemed to rise from the ground itself, growing in intensity until they formed a single, chilling word: revenge. The Bell family, oblivious to the darkness that had descended upon them, prepared for another night in their once peaceful home, unaware that they were about to become unwilling players in a terrifying and tragic tale of vengeance from beyond the grave. The silence of the night was shattered. A piercing scream ripped through the Bell house, echoing across the fields. It was Betsy, her young voice raw with terror. John Bell rushed to his daughter's room, his heart pounding in his chest. Her bedclothes were in disarray, her face pale and streaked with tears. "The witch!" she gasped, pointing a trembling finger at the corner of the room. "She was here!" John Bell scanned the room, his eyes searching the shadows, but found nothing. He tried to calm Betsy, assuring her it was just a nightmare, but even he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over the room. The air felt heavy, charged with an unseen energy. It was the beginning of the torment. The moment Kate Batts's promise of vengeance took a terrifyingly real form. The days that followed were filled with unsettling incidents. Objects moved inexplicably, crashing to the floor in the dead of night. Disembodied whispers seemed to taunt them from the shadows. The Bell family lived in a constant state of fear, never knowing when or where the witch would strike next. It was a slow, insidious torture, designed to break their spirits and claim their sanity. John Bell, once a man of unwavering resolve, found himself doubting his own senses. He tried to rationalize the events, to find logical explanations for the unexplainable, but deep down a seed of doubt had been planted. Could Kate Batts in death be exacting her revenge? The very thought sent shivers down his spine, a chilling premonition of the horrors to come. The haunting escalated with terrifying speed. What began as unsettling noises and misplaced objects transformed into something far more sinister. Physical assaults became commonplace. Invisible hands pinched and scratched, leaving behind welts and bruises. Hair was pulled, and whispers, cold and menacing, hissed in their ears, threatening and taunting. John Bell, his skepticism crumbling in the face of the relentless assaults, found himself a prisoner in his own home. The witch's presence was everywhere, a suffocating weight that pressed down on him, stealing his breath and his sanity. He aged rapidly, his once robust frame withered and stooped, his eyes haunted by the horrors he had witnessed. The servants, their nerves frayed by the constant barrage of supernatural activity, began to flee the Bell farm. Whispers of the haunted house spread like wildfire, and soon no one dared to venture near the property after sunset. The Bell family was isolated, trapped in a nightmare of their own making, with no escape from the wrath of the vengeful spirit that haunted them. Despite the escalating terror, there was a cruel intelligence behind the witch's actions. She seemed to delight in their fear, her attacks becoming more frequent, more personal, as if she were studying them, learning their weaknesses, savoring their despair. And at the heart of it all was Betsy, John Bell's beloved daughter, who had become the focal point of the witch's wrath. The Bell family lived in a perpetual state of terror. Sleep offered no respite, haunted by nightmares and the constant fear of waking to another terrifying encounter. Meals were taken in tense silence, the clatter of cutlery echoing in the otherwise silent house. The once warmth and laughter had been replaced by an oppressive silence, punctuated only by the sounds of their tormentor. The children, their innocence shattered by the horrors they had witnessed, clung to their mother, seeking solace in her embrace. But even her love and reassurance couldn't penetrate the darkness that had enveloped their lives. The witch's presence was a constant threat, a shadow that followed them everywhere, whispering their names, reminding them that they were not safe, not even within the supposed sanctuary of their own home. John Bell, his strength failing, desperately sought a way to break the curse. He consulted with ministers and spiritualists, hoping to find a way to appease the vengeful spirit. But their prayers and rituals seemed only to enrage the witch further, her attacks growing more violent, her laughter more menacing. The once proud patriarch had become a shell of his former self. His spirit, broken by the relentless torment, could find no solace in religion or reason. He was trapped in a waking nightmare, forced to watch helplessly as his family was systematically terrorized by a force he could neither understand nor control. And as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, a chilling realization dawned on John Bell Kate Batts was not merely content with tormenting them. She wanted something far more sinister. She wanted to destroy them, utterly and completely. Betsy Bell, once a bright and cheerful girl, now bore the brunt of the witch's fury. The unseen entity seemed to delight in tormenting the young girl, her laughter echoing through the house as she inflicted her cruel punishments. Betsy's once lively eyes were now clouded with fear, her laughter silenced by the constant threat that lurked around every corner. Invisible hands yanked at her hair, leaving painful knots. Scratches appeared on her arms as if raked by unseen claws. Whispers filled with malice and hate taunted her, calling her name, threatening to drag her into the darkness. The witch seemed to reserve a special kind of hatred for Betsy, her torments becoming increasingly cruel, as if she were trying to break the young girl's spirit completely. John Bell watched in agony as his beloved daughter withered under the weight of the haunting. He would find her huddled in a corner, her body trembling, her eyes wide with terror, whispering pleas for the torment to end. The sight of his once vibrant daughter reduced to a shadow of her former self fueled his rage and despair, but there was nothing he could do to stop it. The witch's fixation on Betsy was unnerving. It was as if Kate Batts saw in Betsy a reflection of everything she had lost, a cruel reminder of the life that had been stolen from her. Betsy became a pawn in the witch's twisted game of revenge, a symbol of John Bell's vulnerability, a target for her unyielding rage. And as the haunting intensified, it became horrifyingly clear that Betsy was not merely being tormented. She was being groomed, prepared for something far more sinister, something that chilled John Bell to the very core of his being. The tale of the Bell Witch, once confined to the hushed whispers of the local townsfolk, began to spread beyond the borders of Adams, Tennessee. It traveled on the wind, carried by travelers and traders, reaching the ears of those eager for tales of the strange and macabre. The story, with each retelling, grew more elaborate, more terrifying, fueled by the imaginations of those who heard it. The news eventually reached the ears of General Andrew Jackson, a man of formidable reputation, known for his unwavering courage and steeled nerves. Intrigued and skeptical in equal measure, Jackson, accompanied by a group of trusted companions, set out for the Bell farm, determined to either debunk the rumors or confront the entity that had terrorized the family for so long. As Jackson and his men approached the Bell property, they felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. The laughter of children, usually a comforting sound, was noticeably absent, replaced by an unnerving silence that seemed to emanate from the house itself. John Bell, his face etched with years of fear and torment, greeted Jackson with a mixture of hope and resignation. He had heard tales of Jackson's bravery, his ability to command respect, even from the most formidable of foes. Perhaps this man, with his unwavering spirit, could succeed where others had failed. Perhaps he could rid the Bell family of the curse that had haunted them for so long. Jackson, though initially skeptical, listened intently as John Bell recounted the horrors that had plagued his family. He examined the scratches on Betsy's arms, the bruises on Lucy's neck, the fear that seemed to cling to them like a shroud. He heard the tales of objects moving on their own, of disembodied voices, of the relentless torment that had driven some to the brink of madness. Despite the chilling accounts, a part of Jackson remained unconvinced. He had faced down armies, stared death in the face, and emerged victorious. A ghost, he reasoned, was nothing more than a figment of an overactive imagination, a product of fear and superstition. He resolved to expose the witch for the charlatan he believed her to be. The witch, however, seemed to take offense to Jackson's disbelief. As Jackson and his men prepared to retire for the night, their wagons suddenly became hopelessly stuck in the mud. The wheels refused to budge, despite the best efforts of the men and the straining muscles of the horses. The air grew thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of their frustrated grunts and the snorting of the horses. Then, from the depths of the woods surrounding the farm, a voice rang out, high-pitched and chillingly distinct. It addressed Jackson by name, mocking his skepticism, challenging his authority. The voice, filled with an unnerving mirth, promised a night of torment unlike any he had ever experienced. Jackson, his face pale in the moonlight, realized that he had stumbled into something far more sinister than he could have imagined. True to her word, the witch wasted no time in asserting her dominance over the unwelcome guests. Invisible hands tugged at their blankets, pulling them from their sleep. Objects flew across the room, smashing against the walls, the sound echoing through the house like gunshots. Whispers, cold and menacing, taunted them, their words laced with threats and promises of unimaginable suffering. Jackson, his initial skepticism replaced by a growing sense of dread, found himself battling an unseen force that defied logic and reason. Every attempt to rationalize the events was met with a terrifying display of the witch's power. He realized, with a chilling certainty, that he had underestimated his adversary. As dawn broke, casting a pale light on the chaos that had unfolded during the night, Jackson and his men emerged from the house, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. Gone was their earlier bravado, replaced by a newfound respect for the unseen entity that held them captive. With a mixture of fear and resignation, Jackson ordered his men to pack their belongings. As their wagons rolled away from the Bell farm, the witch's laughter echoed behind them, a chilling reminder of her power and their helplessness. Jackson, his head bowed in defeat, knew that he had witnessed something truly evil, something that would forever haunt his dreams. The Bell Witch had claimed another victory, her legend cemented in the annals of American folklore. Years went by, years etched with fear and punctuated by the witch's escalating torments. The Bell family, once vibrant and full of life, were but shadows of their former selves, their spirits ground down by the relentless haunting. John Bell, once a symbol of strength and prosperity, now bore the full weight of the curse upon his stooped shoulders. His hair, once thick and dark, had turned a ghostly white, his face a canvas of worry lines, his eyes reflecting the terror that had become his constant companion. The witch seemed to delight in his decline, her laughter echoing through the halls of the Bell house whenever John stumbled or showed signs of weakness. She no longer just tormented, she toyed with them, her presence a constant, menacing shadow that darkened their every thought and action. The townsfolk, though living in fear of the witch's reach extending beyond the Bell property, spoke of John Bell's impending doom in hushed whispers. They said the life was being drained from him, slowly and deliberately, by the malevolent entity that held him captive. And then, one crisp autumn morning, John Bell did not rise from his bed. His family found him still, his eyes staring blankly at the ceiling, his face pale and lifeless. The doctor, summoned from town, could offer no explanation for the suddenness of his demise. He spoke of natural causes, of a heart simply giving out, but even he couldn't ignore the chill that settled over the room, the feeling that something wicked had played a part in John Bell's demise. The news of John Bell's death spread through the town like wildfire, a mixture of relief and apprehension rippling through the community. Relief that the man's suffering had finally ended, but apprehension about what would become of the witch now that her primary target had breathed his last. Would she finally be at peace, or would her wrath find a new outlet, a new victim to torment? While the townsfolk mourned John Bell's passing with a mixture of sorrow and fear, a dark truth unraveled within the walls of the Bell house. John Bell Jr., while tending to his father's belongings, discovered a small, unlabeled vial hidden beneath the old man's bed. It contained a strange, viscous liquid, its color shifting ominously in the dim light. Curiosity, mixed with a growing sense of dread, compelled John Jr. to take the vial to the town doctor. The doctor, a man of science and reason, initially dismissed the vial as nothing more than a home remedy, a concoction of herbs and tinctures common to the rural South. However, upon closer examination, his face paled. The liquid, far from being harmless, contained a potent and deadly poison, one capable of causing a slow and agonizing death. The realization sent a chill down his spine, confirming the whispers that had haunted the town for so long. John Bell had not died of natural causes. He had been murdered. As the doctor shared his findings with the Bell family, a wave of grief and horror washed over them. The realization that their father, their tormentor, had met his end at the hands of the witch, the very entity they had feared for so long, was almost too much to bear. It was a cruel and twisted irony, a final act of vengeance that left them both terrified and strangely vindicated. The witch, it seemed, had saved her most devastating blow for last. She had not been content with merely tormenting John Bell in life. She had orchestrated his demise, slowly poisoning him, savoring his decline, turning his own home into his tomb. It was a masterpiece of malice, a testament to her power and her unyielding thirst for revenge. The air hung heavy with dread, and the smell of damp earth as the Bell family gathered at the edge of the family cemetery. John Bell, his body ravaged by the unseen tormentor, was finally laid to rest. The townsfolk, their faces etched with a mixture of sorrow and apprehension, kept their distance, their eyes darting nervously towards the Bell house, as if expecting the witch to make a final, terrifying appearance. As the minister finished his somber eulogy, and the first clods of earth hit the wooden coffin, a strange sound cut through the silence. It started as a low hum, barely audible at first, then grew in intensity, morphing into a high-pitched wail that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was the witch, her voice filled with a mixture of triumph and mockery, as if celebrating her victory over the man who had wronged her in life. The townsfolk, their faces pale with terror, wasted no time in fleeing the cemetery, their fear overriding any sense of decorum or respect for the dead. They scrambled over headstones, their cries of terror mingling with the witch's chilling laughter. The Bell family, however, remained rooted to the spot, their grief and fear paralyzing them. As suddenly as it began, the laughter ceased. An eerie silence descended upon the cemetery, broken only by the sound of the wind whistling through the trees. The witch, her final act of defiance complete, had vanished. She left behind a legacy of fear and unanswered questions, a chilling reminder that some wounds, even in death, could never truly be healed. With John Bell laid to rest, a palpable sense of relief settled over the community of Adams. The haunting, however, did not cease entirely. The Bell House stood silent, a stark reminder of the horrors that had transpired within its walls. Whispers lingered, carried on the wind, of objects moving on their own, of disembodied laughter echoing through the empty rooms. Some spoke of seeing flickering lights in the windows at night, a sign that the witch, though subdued, was not yet finished with the Bell family. Betsy Bell, forever marked by the ordeal, eventually left the family home, seeking solace in a new life far from the town that held so many painful memories. But even distance could not erase the scars left by the witch's torment. The whispers, the laughter, the chilling touch of unseen hands, these were memories that haunted her dreams. A constant reminder of the darkness that had once consumed her life. The townsfolk, though eager to move on, remained forever changed by the haunting of the Bell family. The story of Kate Batts, the vengeful witch, became a cautionary tale, whispered around campfires, a reminder that some transgressions could have consequences that echoed through generations. The Bell Witch, once a local legend, had secured her place in the annals of American folklore. And so, Adams, Tennessee, bore the weight of its haunted history, a town forever linked to the tale of the Bell Witch. The land, once a symbol of prosperity and promise, now held a chilling secret, a reminder that some wounds, even in death, could never truly be healed. And as the years turned into decades, the legend of the Bell Witch lived on, a chilling testament to the power of vengeance and the enduring darkness that can haunt a place and its people. The story of the Bell Witch, far from fading into obscurity, continued to captivate and terrify generations. What began as a local legend, passed down through whispered tales and campfire stories, grew into a cultural phenomenon. Books were written, documentaries filmed, and the Bell Farm, now a popular tourist destination, drew curious visitors eager to catch a glimpse of the supernatural. The legend even found its way into the realm of popular culture, inspiring countless books, movies, and television shows that explored the themes of revenge, hauntings, and the thin veil that separates the living from the dead. The Blair Witch Project, with its shaky camera work and found footage style, drew direct inspiration from the Bell Witch legend, tapping into the primal fear of the unknown and the unseen. The haunting of the Bell family served as a chilling reminder that some stories, no matter how fantastical or terrifying, refuse to be forgotten. They linger in our collective consciousness, fueled by our fascination with the unexplained and the human desire to make sense of the world around us. And so, the legend of the Bell Witch lives on, a testament to the power of storytelling and the enduring fascination with the unknown. It serves as a reminder that some secrets, buried deep within the earth or locked away in the darkest corners of our minds, have a way of resurfacing, their power undiminished by the passage of time. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Those things really help our channel bring you more creepy content, and we appreciate everything you do to support us.
Is the Amityville horror based on true events? Over the years, skeptics and paranormal investigators have debated the legitimacy of the Lutz's claims. Some argue that the story was exaggerated or fabricated entirely, while others believe that the Lutz family truly experienced something beyond our understanding. Joe Nickell is a renowned American skeptic, paranormal investigator, and author who has extensively researched and debunked various claims of paranormal activity. Nickell is a senior research fellow at the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, where he applies scientific methods and investigative techniques to examine reports of supernatural phenomena. Joe has been highly critical of the paranormal claims related to the Amityville horror case. His investigation into the supposed hauntings at 112 Ocean Avenue focused on uncovering inconsistencies, contradictions, and possible motives behind the Lutz family's sensational story. Joe argued that many elements of the Lutz family's account of paranormal experiences were exaggerated, fabricated, or inspired by other horror stories and folklore. He pointed out that the Lutz family lived in the house for only 28 days. and that their claims were not independently corroborated by other witnesses, including subsequent owners of the house who reported no unusual activity. Joe highlighted the Lutz family's financial troubles at the time, suggesting that their story could have been motivated by the potential for profit. This theory was bolstered by the fact that they collaborated with author Jay Anson to write The Amityville Horror, a book that became a bestseller and spawned a successful film franchise. Joe identified numerous inconsistencies in the Lutz family's narrative. For example, the family claimed to have experienced extreme cold spots in the house, despite the home having a functioning heating system that would make such phenomena unlikely. He also pointed out discrepancies in the descriptions of events.
We also had hordes of flies that would appear within 2 rooms, and no matter how many times we would kill them, they would reappear.
Right, now flies can be a real problem in this part of the country in the summer,
Sure.
in any house, you know.
But if you have 2 or 3 or 4 within 1 room, that could be commonplace. But when you're talking over 100...
Oh, this was the winter.
Yes.
And you're talking about how many?
Over 100 flies
Over 100
at
flies.
one time. And then you'd go around and kill them. They'd be lying on the floor. You'd come back an hour later, and they would be there more.
Whoa, that is a fucking lie.
George Lutz claimed to have seen a pig-like creature with glowing red eyes, while other accounts varied or contradicted this claim. Nickel noted that many of the incidents described in the book were not reported by the Lutz family until after they had left the house and entered into a book deal. Joe has offered natural explanations for many of the reported phenomena. For example, he suggested that the green slime reportedly oozing from the walls could have been due to common mold or algae, while the mysterious noises could have been caused by mundane sources like wind, creaking floorboards, or small animals. He also proposed that psychological factors such as stress, suggestibility, or sleep deprivation could have contributed to the family's perception of supernatural events. The influence of popular culture and horror stories might have further shaped their narrative. Joe has openly criticized the media and the book's author, Jay Anson, for sensationalizing the story to maximize its commercial appeal. He argued that the book contained numerous embellishments and fictional elements designed to create a compelling horror narrative rather than to present a factual account of events. Joe Nickel concluded that the Amityville horror story was a hoax, or, at the very least, a grossly exaggerated account of ordinary events. He suggested that the Lutz family had financial motives to fabricate or embellish their experiences, and that many aspects of their story were influenced by popular culture and previous horror tales. In his view, the Amityville horror case is a classic example of how stories can be shaped and distorted by a combination of psychological, social, and economic factors. The Lutzes stood by their story until the day they died, insisting that the horrors they experienced in the house were real. Meanwhile, some of the subsequent owners of the home have reported nothing out of the ordinary, leading many to question the truth behind the Amityville legend. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, the Amityville horror has left an indelible mark on pop culture and the American psyche. It remains one of the most famous hauntings in modern history, inspiring fear, fascination, and disbelief. And as night falls over the small town of Amityville, one question still lingers. What really happened within the walls of 112 Ocean Avenue? Perhaps we'll never know for sure, but one thing is certain. Something dark left its mark there, and that darkness may never truly leave. Whatever you choose to believe, beware the house on Ocean Avenue. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the unknown.
Did you know that the Stanley Hotel inspired Stephen King's The Shining? This iconic location is said to be one of the most haunted places in America. In this video, we will explore the eerie history and spine-chilling stories of the Stanley Hotel, a remarkable destination that attracts ghost hunters and curious travelers alike. So grab your ghost hunting gear and let's dive into the world of the supernatural. Many people wonder whether the tales of hauntings at the Stanley Hotel are merely legends, or if there's some truth behind these ghostly encounters. You might have heard some spooky stories from friends or seen them on social media, but is it all just a marketing ploy to attract tourists? We're going to uncover the facts and separate the reality from the myths. Are these ghostly figures simply figments of the imagination? Or do they hold a deeper connection to the hotel's storied past? Stick around as we dig into the chilling history and spine-tingling tales that have made this place a hotspot for thrill seekers. We'll take a closer look at the hotel's history, including its construction in 1909. The Stanley Hotel was built by F.O. Stanley, an inventor and businessman who was actually famous for his Stanley steamer automobiles. Can you believe that? This place wasn't just built as a hotel. It was a haven for the rich and famous who wanted to escape to the mountains of Colorado. Over the years, the hotel has hosted countless guests, including the likes of famous authors, musicians, and even some notable politicians. But it's not just the glamorous history that makes the Stanley Hotel intriguing. Oh no. The infamous events that have taken place here have left a mark that simply won't fade. Guests have reported seeing apparitions, hearing strange noises, and even experiencing unexplained cold spots in certain rooms. The most notable haunted areas include room 217, where a former housekeeper is said to roam, and the concert hall, where ghostly piano music has been heard echoing through the halls. And let's not forget about the numerous ghost sightings reported by guests. From mysterious footsteps in empty hallways to doors opening and closing on their own, the Stanley Hotel is like a living ghost story. Many guests have shared their eerie experiences, which only adds to the hotel's haunted reputation. Are you ready to hear about these chilling encounters? Listen closely as we recount the most chilling experiences shared by visitors. One particularly eerie encounter involves the ghost of F.O. Stanley himself. Guests have reported feeling a presence in the lobby, and some have even claimed to see the dapper figure of Mr. Stanley standing by the fireplace, watching over his beloved hotel. Imagine checking in and coming face to face with the spirit of the man who built the place. Another guest reported a spine-tingling experience in room 217, where they felt a soft hand brush against their face while they were sleeping. Yikes. And let's not forget the children, who are often spotted playing in the hallways, giggling and laughing, even when no one else is around. Could these be the spirits of children who once stayed at the hotel? These stories leave you wondering, don't they? Is there really something beyond our understanding, lurking within the walls of the Stanley Hotel? As we wrap up, we've uncovered the rich history and haunting tales of the Stanley Hotel. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying the allure of this place. Its combination of breathtaking beauty and spine-chilling stories makes it a fascinating destination for anyone who craves a little thrill. But the big question remains, is it truly a haunted mansion worth visiting? We'll leave that for you to decide. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the spooky side of the Stanley Hotel, be sure to check out our next video on the top haunted locations across the US, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever visited the Stanley Hotel? What was your experience like? We'd love to hear your stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more thrilling adventures.
It began with a simple wine cabinet, a wooden box, unassuming in its appearance. It looked like any other antique, perhaps a relic from a bygone era, a piece of history that had been forgotten over time. But within its unpolished exterior resided a darkness that defied explanation. It was as if the box itself was a portal to another realm, a place where shadows danced and secrets of the past lingered. This was no ordinary container. It was a vessel, a prison designed to hold something far more sinister than anyone could imagine. It was a prison, a vessel for something ancient and evil. The very air around it seemed to thicken with a malevolent presence, a sense of dread that was palpable to anyone who came near. It was known as the Dybbuk Box, and its story was one of tragedy, terror, and the haunting power of the unknown. The name itself sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it, a reminder of the dark forces that lurk just beyond the veil of our understanding. In Jewish folklore, a Dybbuk is a restless spirit, a malevolent entity that seeks refuge in the physical world by possessing the living. These spirits were said to be the souls of the dead who had not found peace, driven by a need for revenge or a desire to complete unfinished business. The Dybbuk Box, it was said, housed such a spirit, trapped within its wooden confines, desperate to break free. The spirit within was not just any Dybbuk, but one of immense power and malevolence, a force that had been contained for generations. The box's journey across continents and through time remained shrouded in mystery, its path marked by rumors of misfortune.
It had passed through many hands, each owner experiencing a series of inexplicable events, a trail of bad luck that seemed to follow the box wherever it went. But its legend grew with each passing year, attracting the attention of those who sought to unravel its secrets, those who dared to confront the darkness that lay dormant within. Paranormal investigators, historians, and thrill-seekers alike were drawn to the box, each hoping to unlock its mysteries and perhaps gain some insight into the nature of the supernatural. Little did they know, the Dybbuk Box was waiting, its power coiled like a serpent, ready to strike at any who dared to disturb its slumber. The spirit within was patient, biding its time, waiting for the right moment to unleash its fury upon the world once more. Those who sought to understand the box often found themselves ensnared by its dark allure, unable to escape the grip of the malevolent force that lay within. Researchers and scholars who studied the box often reported strange occurrences, from inexplicable cold spots to the feeling of being watched. Some even claimed to have seen shadowy figures lurking in the corners of their vision, always just out of sight. Paranormal investigators who dared to interact with the box often found themselves plagued by nightmares, visions of a dark and twisted world where the boundaries between the living and the dead were blurred. They spoke of hearing voices in the night, voices that seemed to come from the very walls of their homes. In modern times, the Dybbuk Box continues to captivate and terrify those who encounter it. It serves as a reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the unknown, a testament to the enduring power of the supernatural. The box remains a symbol of the darkness that can reside within even the most unassuming of objects, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved.
Kevin Mannis, an antique dealer with a penchant for the peculiar, first encountered the Dybbuk Box at an estate sale in Portland, Oregon. Kevin had always been drawn to items with a story, objects that seemed to carry a piece of history within them. His shop was filled with such treasures, each with its own unique tale, but nothing had ever intrigued him quite like this box. Intrigued by its strange aura and the hushed whispers surrounding its origins, he felt an inexplicable pull towards the unassuming wooden box. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. The box seemed to emanate a strange energy, a kind of magnetic pull that he couldn't resist. The other attendees at the sale seemed to avoid it, casting wary glances in its direction, but Kevin was captivated. It was as if the box itself beckoned him, whispering promises of untold stories and forgotten secrets. Kevin could almost hear the faint whispers, like echoes from a distant past, calling out to him. He felt a deep, almost primal urge to uncover the mysteries hidden within the box. It was a feeling he couldn't shake, a curiosity that gnawed at him. Ignoring the warnings of those around him, Kevin purchased the box, unaware of the Pandora's box he was about to unleash. Friends and fellow dealers cautioned him, saying that some things are better left untouched. But his curiosity got the better of him. He was determined to unlock the secrets of the Dybbuk Box, no matter the cost. He brought it back to his shop, placing it among his other curiosities. The moment he set it down, he felt a shift in the atmosphere. It was as if the box had a presence, a life of its own. He couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. What had he brought into his shop? Its dark energy was a stark contrast to the otherwise vibrant atmosphere. His shop, usually filled with light and warmth, seemed to grow colder and dimmer. The box seemed to absorb the light around it, casting long, eerie shadows. It was as if the box was a black hole, drawing in all the positive energy and leaving behind a void. As days turned into nights, Kevin began to notice strange occurrences, subtle at first, like shadows dancing at the edge of his vision. He would catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of his eye, but when he turned to look, there was nothing there. Dust motes seemed to swirl in patterns that defied logic, creating shapes that vanished as quickly as they appeared, and an unsettling feeling of being watched. It was a constant nagging sensation, as if unseen eyes were always on him. He would often look over his shoulder, expecting to find someone standing there, but he was always alone. The feeling grew stronger with each passing day, making it difficult for him to focus on his work. Then, the nightmares began. Vivid, terrifying dreams plagued his sleep, leaving him drenched in a cold sweat. In these dreams, he found himself in dark, unfamiliar places, surrounded by shadows that seemed to move and breathe. He would wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, unable to shake the feeling of dread. In these nightmares, he would see a horrifying figure, a grotesque visage with eyes that burned with an infernal fire. The figure seemed to be a manifestation of pure evil, its presence suffocating and overwhelming. Kevin could feel its malevolent gaze piercing through him, filling him with a sense of impending doom. The figure would speak to him in a language he didn't understand, its voice a guttural rasp that sent shivers down his spine. The words were harsh and grating, like the sound of metal scraping against stone. Even though he couldn't understand the language, he could sense the malice and hatred in every syllable. It was a voice filled with malice, a voice that spoke of unspeakable things. The words seemed to echo in his mind long after he woke up, leaving him with a lingering sense of fear and unease. Kevin knew that he had unleashed something dark and dangerous, something that he couldn't control. The Dybbuk Box had become more than just a curiosity. It was a curse that he couldn't escape. Kevin's unease grew with each passing day, the strange occurrences intensifying. It started with small, almost imperceptible things, a book falling off a shelf, a picture frame tilting slightly. But soon these minor disturbances escalated into something far more sinister. Objects began to move on their own, lights flickered and died, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. The air grew thick with an unexplainable tension, as if the very atmosphere was charged with a malevolent energy, and a foul odor like that of decay and despair permeated the air around the box. It was a smell that clung to everything, seeping into the walls and furniture, making it impossible to ignore. Kevin tried to rationalize it, thinking perhaps a rodent had died within the walls, but deep down, he knew the truth. It was as if the box was weeping, its sorrow manifesting as a tangible presence in Kevin's life. Then, tragedy struck. The sorrow seemed to seep into his very soul, affecting his mood and thoughts. He found himself growing more irritable, more paranoid, as if the box was feeding off his fear and amplifying it. Kevin's mother suffered a debilitating stroke while visiting his shop. The news hit him like a freight train, leaving him reeling and disoriented. He rushed to the hospital, his mind a whirlwind of fear and guilt. As she lay helpless in the hospital, he watched in horror as she attempted to communicate, her words garbled and slurred. It was as if the stroke had stolen not just her ability to speak, but her very essence. The vibrant, strong woman he had known was now a shadow of her former self. In her eyes, he saw a reflection of the terror that had taken root in his own heart. Her eyes, once filled with warmth and love, were now wide with fear, mirroring the dread that had become a constant companion in his life. She mouthed a single word, a word that sent chills down his spine. Box. It was a word that carried with it the weight of all the horrors he had experienced. It was a word that confirmed his deepest fears. Desperate to rid himself of the cursed object, Kevin gifted the Dybbuk Box to his mother, hoping that by passing it on, he could free himself from its grip. He believed that the box's malevolent influence would be diluted by distance, that his mother would be safe from its curse. Unaware of the terrible mistake he was making, he had underestimated the box's power, its ability to reach across distances and continue its reign of terror. He had hoped for peace, but instead he had only spread the darkness. Desperate to break free from the curse, Kevin sought solace in the written word. He penned a detailed account of his experiences, hoping to lessen the burden of his terrifying encounter. His account caught the attention of Jason Haxton, director of the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine. Kevin, relieved to find someone willing to take the box, readily agreed. He shipped the box to Jason with a stern warning to treat it with respect and caution.
Sleep paralysis is a fascinating and mysterious phenomenon. It sits at the intersection of science and the supernatural. Many people have experienced the unsettling feeling of being awake but unable to move. Often, this is accompanied by vivid hallucinations. These experiences can be terrifying. Historically, sleep paralysis has been linked to myths and legends. People have spoken of nighttime demons, ghosts, and other supernatural entities. But what is sleep paralysis really? Science offers explanations involving brain activity and sleep cycles. Yet, the mystery remains. This essay will explore sleep paralysis from multiple angles. We will look at historical accounts, scientific research, and cultural interpretations. By the end, you may find that the line between science and the supernatural is not as clear-cut as it seems. Ancient cultures often viewed sleep paralysis as supernatural. In medieval Europe, it was known as Old Hag Syndrome. People believed a witch or demon sat on their chest, causing paralysis. This interpretation was common due to a lack of scientific understanding. In Japan, sleep paralysis is called kanashibari, which translates to bound in metal. Ancient Japanese folklore attributes this to vengeful spirits. These spirits, known as yokai, would pin their victims down while they slept. This belief persists in some rural areas even today. The Egyptians had their own take on sleep paralysis. They believed it was caused by a jinn, a type of spirit. These jinn were thought to be malevolent and would attack during sleep. Ancient texts describe elaborate rituals to ward off these spirits. These historical interpretations show a common theme. Sleep paralysis was often seen as a supernatural attack. Without scientific methods, ancient people turned to myths to explain their experiences. Different cultures have unique stories about sleep paralysis. In Scandinavian folklore, it is said to be the work of a mare, a type of evil spirit that rides on people's chests while they sleep. The victim wakes up but can't move, feeling an immense pressure. In the Caribbean, some believe in a creature called the baktak. This is a ghostly figure that causes sleep paralysis. People say they see a shadowy figure entering their room. The baktak then sits on their chest, making it hard to breathe. In Nigeria, sleep paralysis is often attributed to witchcraft. It is believed that witches send their spirits to attack people in their sleep. Victims wake up paralyzed and sometimes see the witch in their room. This belief is strong, and some communities still practice rituals to protect against it. In South America, the pisadera is a common legend. This is an old woman who appears at night. She jumps on people's chests, causing them to wake up paralyzed. These tales highlight how universal the experience of sleep paralysis is, yet each culture adds its own twist. Modern science offers a different explanation for sleep paralysis. It occurs when the brain wakes up before the body. During REM, rapid eye movement sleep, the body is naturally paralyzed to prevent acting out dreams. If you wake up during this stage, you might experience sleep paralysis. Neurologists have studied this phenomenon extensively. They found that sleep paralysis is linked to disrupted sleep patterns. People who suffer from insomnia or sleep apnea are more likely to experience it. Stress and anxiety can also increase the chances. Brain imaging studies show that specific areas of the brain are active during sleep paralysis. The amygdala, which processes fear, is often hyperactive. This could explain why people feel a sense of terror. The motor cortex, which controls movement, remains inactive, causing the paralysis. Despite the scientific explanations, sleep paralysis still feels very real. The hallucinations are vivid and often terrifying. This makes it hard for people to accept that it's just in their heads. REM sleep plays a crucial role in sleep paralysis. During REM, the brain is highly active, almost like when we are awake. This is the stage where most dreaming occurs. To prevent us from acting out our dreams, the brain temporarily paralyzes the body. However, sometimes this system malfunctions. The brain wakes up, but the body remains paralyzed. This disconnection creates the sensation of being trapped in your own body. It's a frightening experience. Researchers have found that certain factors can disrupt REM sleep. Irregular sleep schedules, jet lag, and sleep disorders like narcolepsy can increase the risk. People who experience frequent nightmares are also more susceptible to sleep paralysis. Understanding REM sleep helps demystify sleep paralysis. It shows that this phenomenon is a natural part of our sleep cycle, yet it doesn't make the experience any less terrifying. From a neurological standpoint, sleep paralysis is linked to brain functions. The brain's motor cortex controls movement, while the limbic system processes emotions. During sleep paralysis, these systems become out of sync. This results in the feeling of paralysis and intense fear. Psychologists have also studied the impact of mental health on sleep paralysis. Anxiety and stress are common triggers. People with PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder are more likely to experience it. Depression and other mood disorders can also play a role. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, has been effective in treating sleep paralysis. CBT helps patients change their thought patterns and reduce anxiety. Relaxation techniques, such as deep breathing and meditation, can also help. While these treatments can reduce the frequency of sleep paralysis, they don't eliminate it completely. The brain is complex, and there is still much we don't understand. Personal accounts of sleep paralysis are often chilling. Many people describe feeling a heavy weight on their chest. They see shadowy figures or hear strange noises. These hallucinations are vivid and can feel very real. One common theme is the sense of an evil presence. People often describe seeing a dark figure at the foot of their bed. This figure may move closer, adding to the terror. Others report hearing whispers or feeling a cold breeze. Some people have recurring episodes. They wake up paralyzed several times a month. This constant fear can affect their mental health and quality of life. Support groups and online forums offer a space for people to share their experiences. These personal accounts highlight the emotional impact of sleep paralysis. While science can explain the mechanics, it can't fully capture the fear. Section 8. Sleep paralysis and the supernatural. The supernatural aspect of sleep paralysis cannot be ignored. Many people believe their experiences are more than just brain malfunctions. They report seeing ghosts, demons, or even extraterrestrial beings. In some cases, these encounters feel spiritual. People describe feeling a presence that they interpret as a guardian spirit. Others feel that they have been visited by deceased loved ones. These interpretations often align with their cultural or religious beliefs. Skeptics argue that these experiences are just hallucinations. However, the vividness and emotional intensity make it hard to dismiss them completely. Some researchers have suggested that sleep paralysis could offer a glimpse into altered states of consciousness. This overlap between science and the supernatural makes sleep paralysis a unique phenomenon. It challenges our understanding of reality and the limits of human perception. Section 9. Cross-cultural comparisons. Different cultures have different interpretations of sleep paralysis. In Western cultures, it's often seen as a medical condition. People are more likely to seek scientific explanations and treatments. In contrast, many non-Western cultures view it as a supernatural event. In Southeast Asia, sleep paralysis is known as fiam, and it is believed to be caused by spirits. People perform rituals to protect themselves. In Mexico, it is called Se me subió el muerto, meaning the dead climbed on me. This reflects the belief that the spirits of the dead are involved. In Islamic cultures, sleep paralysis is sometimes attributed to jinn, supernatural beings mentioned in the Quran. People recite prayers to ward off these entities. In African cultures, it is often linked to witchcraft. Community rituals are performed to break the spell. These cross-cultural comparisons show how universal the experience of sleep paralysis is, yet each culture interprets it through its own lens. This adds to the complexity and intrigue of the phenomenon. Section 10. Case studies, where science meets the supernatural. Several case studies highlight the overlap between science and the supernatural in sleep paralysis. One famous case is that of Dr. John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist. He studied patients who claimed to have been abducted by aliens. Many of these experiences occurred during sleep paralysis. Mack suggested that these experiences could be a form of altered consciousness. Another case involves a woman named Alice. She reported seeing a shadowy figure every time she experienced sleep paralysis. Despite knowing the scientific explanation, she couldn't shake the feeling that it was a ghost. This dual belief highlights the tension between rationality and fear. A study conducted in Canada found that people who believe in the supernatural are more likely to have intense sleep paralysis experiences. These beliefs seem to shape the nature of the hallucinations. This suggests that cultural and personal beliefs play a significant role. These case studies show that the line between science and the supernatural is blurry. While scientific explanations exist, they don't fully account for the personal and emotional aspects of sleep paralysis. Section 11. The ongoing debate, science versus superstition. The debate between scientific and supernatural explanations of sleep paralysis continues. Scientists argue that it's a natural phenomenon linked to sleep cycles. They point to brain activity and psychological factors as evidence. Treatments like CBT and lifestyle changes can reduce episodes. However, many people remain convinced of a supernatural element. The vividness and emotional intensity of their experiences make it hard to accept a purely scientific explanation. Cultural and religious beliefs also play a strong role. This debate is not just academic. It affects how people seek treatment and cope with their experiences. Those who view sleep paralysis as a medical issue are more likely to seek professional help. Those who see it as supernatural may turn to rituals or spiritual practices. Ultimately, both perspectives offer valuable insights. Science helps us understand the mechanics, while culture and personal beliefs add depth to our understanding. Section 12. Conclusion, bridging science and the supernatural. In conclusion, sleep paralysis is a complex phenomenon. It sits at the crossroads of science and the supernatural. Historical and cultural interpretations add layers of meaning. Modern science offers explanations involving brain activity and sleep cycles. Yet, the emotional and personal impact remains profound. This essay has explored various perspectives on sleep paralysis. From ancient myths to modern research, the phenomenon challenges our understanding. It shows that the line between the mundane and the supernatural is not always clear. Perhaps sleep paralysis is a reminder of the mysteries that still exist. It encourages us to keep exploring, questioning, and seeking answers. Whether through science or spirituality, the quest for understanding continues. By examining both rational explanations and legendary beliefs, we can appreciate the richness of human experience. Sleep paralysis is more than just a medical condition. It's a window into the complexities of the human mind and spirit.
In this video, you'll explore the RMS Queen Mary, a former ocean liner that now serves as a hotel and museum, and its reputation as one of the most haunted ships in the world. But is it all true? Welcome aboard the RMS Queen Mary, one of the most luxurious ocean liners of its time, and now one of the most haunted locations in the world. Docked permanently in Long Beach, California, the Queen Mary has earned a reputation as a paranormal hotspot, drawing ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and the curious from around the globe. But what is it about this majestic ship that draws so many spirits? The Queen Mary was launched in 1936, a marvel of Art Deco, design, and luxury, carrying the rich and famous across the Atlantic. However, her service took a dark turn during World War II, when she was transformed into the Grey Ghost, a troop transport ship.
Now for the first pictures to be released showing that great ship, the Queen Mary, on war work. As a giant troop transport, she took the first contingent of the AIF to go overseas. She took men of the 8th Division to Singapore, and later she brought American troops to Australia.
With over 800,000 military personnel carried and stories of untimely deaths, it's no wonder that some believe the ship's troubled past has left a lingering presence. But even in retirement, the ship's history of paranormal activity continued to grow, as strange occurrences and sightings were reported by both staff and visitors. Today, the Queen Mary is a hotel and museum, attracting visitors from all over the world who are drawn to its rich history and haunted past. The Queen Mary's history is woven from the threads of tragedy and loss, from the devastating effects of war to the untimely deaths of passengers and crew. It's little wonder, then, that the ship is said to be haunted by so many restless spirits. From the engine room to the grand staterooms, almost every area of the ship has its own unique paranormal tale to tell. And yet, despite the many ghost stories and legends surrounding the ship, the Queen Mary remains a beloved and iconic landmark, attracting visitors from all over the world. So what's behind the Queen Mary's enduring appeal? Is it the chance to catch a glimpse of the paranormal, or is it the ship's rich history and cultural significance? One of the ship's most notorious spirits is that of John Petter, a young crewman who met a tragic end in the engine room. Crushed by the notorious Door 13 during a routine drill in 1966, Petter's spirit is said to still roam the area. Visitors and staff have reported seeing a shadowy figure in blue coveralls, sometimes accompanied by the sound of footsteps echoing through the otherwise silent space. Stateroom B340 is perhaps the most infamous location on the Queen Mary. The room was closed for decades due to an overwhelming number of reports of paranormal activity, including unexplained voices, lights flickering, and guests being violently shaken awake. For years, this room was off limits, but it has recently reopened for those daring enough to spend a night. Another notorious hotspot is the first-class swimming pool. Though it's been empty for years, guests report sightings of spectral women in vintage swimsuits and hearing the distinct sounds of splashing. One spirit frequently seen here is that of a little girl named Jackie, whose playful laughter and cries have been caught on tape. Paranormal investigators have captured eerie EVPs and shadow figures near the pool, further cementing its haunted reputation. Perhaps the most famous ghost story associated with the Queen Mary is that of the Lady in White, a misty apparition that's said to haunt the ship's first-class lounge. According to legend, the Lady in White was a young passenger who died under tragic circumstances, and her spirit has been trapped on the ship ever since. Many have reported seeing her ghostly figure, often accompanied by an icy cold breeze or the faint scent of perfume. Then there's the engine room hauntings, where visitors have reported strange noises, unexplained movements, and even full-blown apparitions. Some claim to have seen the ghost of a young engineer who died in the engine room, while others have reported being touched or pushed by unseen forces. In the decades since its retirement, the Queen Mary has become a hotbed of paranormal activity, with reports of ghostly encounters and unexplained events flooding in from all over the world. From doors that slam shut of their own accord to apparitions that appear in photographs, the Queen Mary seems to be a hub of supernatural activity. But what makes this ship so haunted? Is it the lingering energy of the countless passengers and crew who've passed through its doors? Or is it something more sinister? Whatever the reason, the Queen Mary remains one of the most haunted places on Earth, a must-visit destination for anyone drawn to the supernatural and the unknown. The Queen Mary has been investigated by countless paranormal teams, including the likes of Ghost Hunters and Most Haunted. Using equipment like EMF detectors, thermal cameras, and audio recorders, investigators have documented numerous instances of paranormal phenomena, disembodied voices, unexplained noises, and sudden drops in temperature that defy rational explanation. The RMS Queen Mary is more than just a haunted ship. It's a piece of living history, a tangible link to the past. If you enjoyed this visit into the supernatural, why not check out this next video?
Nestled in the Benedict Canyon area of Los Angeles, California, lies Cielo Drive, a place that holds a chilling history. It's a winding road that once offered an escape from the city's bustle, a serene retreat for those seeking peace. But this isn't a typical Hollywood story of glamour and fame. Instead, it's a tale shrouded in darkness and mystery. Cielo Drive is synonymous with a darkness that chilled the world, a place where the shadows seem to whisper secrets. On August 9th, 1969, this secluded haven became a scene of unimaginable horror, forever altering its legacy. The Manson family, a cult led by the infamous Charles Manson, committed a series of brutal murders that shocked the nation to its core. Their reign of terror forever stained Cielo Drive, leaving behind a legacy of fear and fascination that continues to haunt the public imagination. Before the horrors of 1969, Cielo Drive was home to the rich and famous. Among them was actress Sharon Tate, wife of famed director Roman Polanski. The couple's sprawling home, 10050 Cielo Drive, was a haven of creativity and joy. It was a stark contrast to the darkness that Charles Manson and his followers embodied. Manson, a charismatic and deeply disturbed individual, assembled a group of lost souls. He manipulated them with his twisted philosophies and promises of a race war. After the murders at 10050 Cielo Drive, the property was demolished. A new home, known as the Omen House, was built in its place, but the darkness lingered. Whispers of strange and unsettling occurrences have plagued the Omen House for years. Some believe the residual energy of the horrific events continues to resonate within the property's very foundation. From unexplained noises to chilling apparitions, the Omen House has become a focal point for paranormal investigators and curiosity seekers, casting a dark shadow over Hollywood. The events of August 9, 1969, unfolded with chilling precision, leaving an indelible mark on history. Manson's followers, under his direct orders, descended upon 10050 Cielo Drive with sinister intent. Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant, was hosting a small gathering of close friends. Also present were her friend's hairstylist Jay Sebring, coffee heiress Abigail Folger, and Folger's lover, writer Wojciech Frykowski, all enjoying a quiet evening. The evening was supposed to be filled with laughter and friendship, a respite from their busy lives. Instead, it became a scene of unimaginable violence, forever altering the lives of those involved. Manson's followers, armed with knives and a gun, stormed the property, leaving a trail of horror in their wake. Echoes of a brutal crime. The following morning, the world awoke to the news of the murders at Cielo Drive. The details sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. The brutality of the crimes, coupled with the Manson family's bizarre motives, left an indelible mark on the public consciousness. The murders weren't simply acts of violence, they were symbolic of a larger societal unease. The late 1960s were a time of great upheaval. The Vietnam War raged, and the counterculture movement challenged traditional values. This seemingly serene location hides a dark and chilling past that continues to haunt the public imagination. Cielo Drive remains an unsettling location, forever linked to a night of unspeakable horror. The events that transpired here have left an indelible mark on history. The murders at 10050 Cielo Drive and the subsequent trial of Charles Manson and his followers captivated the world. The media frenzy that followed turned the case into a global phenomenon. The case became a macabre spectacle, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic settings. It showed how quickly tranquility can turn into terror. But Cielo Drive is more than just a crime scene. It has a rich history that predates the infamous murders, adding layers of intrigue to its story. It's a place where history and the paranormal intersect, where whispers of the past continue to echo through the present. Many believe the spirits of those who perished still linger. What do you think happened that night on Cielo Drive? Theories abound, each more chilling than the last. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Engage with others who are equally fascinated by this dark chapter in history. And if you're brave enough, delve deeper into the world of the paranormal. Investigate the unexplained phenomena that continue to baffle experts. Explore the stories of other haunted locations and see if you can unravel their mysteries. Each place has its own eerie tale waiting to be discovered.
Section 1. The legend begins. Resurrection Mary on Archer Avenue. Archer Avenue in Chicago holds a dark secret, a ghostly figure named Resurrection Mary. The legend began in the 1930s when a driver encountered a young woman in a white gown. She vanished near Resurrection Cemetery. Over the years, numerous drivers have reported similar encounters. A spectral woman, always in white, hitchhiking along Archer Avenue, only to disappear near the cemetery. The story spread, capturing imaginations and becoming a staple of Chicago's urban legends. Each encounter adds another layer to her mystery. The more sightings reported, the more the lines blur between fact and fiction. Resurrection Mary's legend continues to draw people in with the promise of a ghost story that feels all too real. Section 2. Unveiling the ghost early sightings and historical context. Archer Avenue, with its roots tracing back to the 19th century, has always been steeped in local lore. Resurrection Cemetery, one of the largest in North America, sets the stage for Mary's ghostly tale. Early sightings described Mary as a young woman in vintage clothing, a white dress. Speculations arose that she might have been a victim of a tragic accident. Theories suggest she was a young woman who died in a car crash after a night of dancing in the 1920s. Despite extensive research, her true identity remains a mystery. The 1930s were a time of great change and turmoil, and stories of restless spirits resonated with the public. The ghost of a young woman symbolized the era's collective grief and longing. Mary's story is about the people who have seen her, the history that surrounds her, and the enduring power of a legend that refuses to fade away. Section 1. Tracing Mary's origins, theories and speculations. The identity of resurrection. Mary has been a subject of speculation for decades. One popular theory suggests that Mary was a young woman named Mary Bregovy, who died in a car accident in 1934. Another theory posits that Resurrection Mary was Anna Maria Norkus, who also died in a car accident in 1927. Both were buried in Resurrection Cemetery. Some believe that Resurrection Mary is a composite of several tragic figures from Chicago's past. These spirits, bound by their untimely deaths, may collectively contribute to the legend. Despite the numerous theories, the legend of Resurrection Mary is deeply rooted in Chicago's history and culture. Each theory leaves us with more questions than answers. Mary's mystery continues to captivate and confound those who seek to uncover the truth. Section 2. The tragic backstory, piecing together Mary's life and death. To understand resurrection. Mary, one must delve into the possible life she led and the tragic events that likely led to her untimely demise. If Mary Bregovy is considered, her life story is both poignant and tragic. Born in 1913, Mary enjoyed dancing and socializing. Her sudden death in a car accident left a grieving family and community. Similarly, Maria Norkus, a teenager of Lithuanian descent, loved dancing. The car crash that claimed her life devastated her family and left a lasting scar on the community. Both Bregovia and Norcus share common threads: youth, vibrancy, and a love for dancing. The tragic end to their lives adds a layer of sorrow to the ghostly encounters. The legend of Resurrection Mary reflects real-life tragedies that have shaped the history and collective memory of the Chicago area. Section 3. Echoes of the Past, Historical Events Tied to the Legend. The legend of Resurrection Mary is intertwined with the historical events and cultural shifts that have shaped Chicago. In the 1920s and 1930s, Chicago was a bustling metropolis undergoing rapid change. The Prohibition era brought about a thriving underground nightlife. The O. Henry Ballroom, where Mary was allegedly last seen alive, was a popular venue. The era saw a significant rise in automobile ownership, leading to more traffic accidents. These accidents were often sensationalized in local newspapers, contributing to the lore of restless spirits. The Great Depression left many people searching for meaning and comfort. Stories of ghosts and hauntings provided a form of escapism and a way to process collective grief. The historical context helps explain why the story of Resurrection Mary has endured and continues to captivate imaginations. Section 1. Documented Sightings, Eyewitness Accounts. The legend of Resurrection Mary is built on numerous eyewitness accounts that span decades. One of the earliest documented encounters dates back to the 1930s. A young driver picked up a hitchhiker, a young woman in a white dress, who vanished near Resurrection Cemetery. In the 1970s, a cab driver named Ralph claimed to have encountered Mary. He picked up a young woman who directed him towards Resurrection Cemetery and then disappeared. In the 1980s, a local bartender reported seeing Mary at his establishment. She danced alone in a vintage white dress and vanished as she approached Archer Avenue. These documented sightings are personal experiences that have left lasting impressions. The consistency in descriptions adds layers of authenticity to the legend. Section 2. Supernatural Phenomena, The Unexplainable Encounters. The Legend of Resurrection. Mary is bolstered by numerous reports of supernatural phenomena. Drivers who have picked up Mary report their vehicle's temperature dropping dramatically. Witnesses describe feeling an inexplicable cold even on warm nights. Another common phenomenon is the appearance of handprints on car windows. Drivers often find foggy handprints on their windows after Mary disappears. Resurrection Cemetery is a hotspot for supernatural activity. Visitors have reported seeing gates that appear bent or twisted. One famous incident involved wrought iron gates bearing the impression of handprints. These supernatural phenomena contribute to the enduring fascination with Resurrection Mary. Resurrection. Mary is more than just a ghost story. She is a cultural icon in Chicago folklore. Her tale has permeated local culture, influencing literature, music, and tourism. This cultural impact ensures that Mary's story remains alive, captivating new generations. The legend has inspired numerous books and articles. Local bands have written songs about her, capturing her haunting beauty. Ghost tours frequently include stops along Archer Avenue and Resurrection Cemetery. Resurrection Mary serves as a symbol of local heritage, shared among residents. Her story is a reflection of Chicago's collective imagination and history. Section 4. The Continuing Legend, Modern-Day Sightings and Interpretations. The Legend of Resurrection. Mary is not confined to the past. Modern-day sightings keep her story fresh and relevant. These encounters add new layers to the legend. Numerous reports of Mary's sightings continue to emerge. One such encounter involved teenagers seeing a woman in white on Archer Avenue. She vanished as they neared Resurrection Cemetery. This incident sparked renewed interest in the legend. Technology plays a role in modern interpretations. Paranormal investigators use advanced equipment to detect ghostly activity. EMF meters, thermal cameras, and EVP recorders are employed. Some claim to have recorded unexplained voices. Social media amplifies the legend. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok are filled with posts about encounters. Hashtags like #ResurrectionMary allow people to share their experiences. These digital narratives keep the story alive. Modern interpretations explore new dimensions of the legend. Some view Mary's story through social and psychological analysis. Others see her as a feminist icon. These perspectives enrich the legend. The continuing legend of Resurrection Mary highlights the dynamic nature of folklore. The story adapts, reflecting the changing cultural and technological landscape. Yet, at its core, the legend remains a poignant reminder of loss and mystery. Resurrection Mary will continue to haunt and captivate. Chilling encounters, personal stories from witnesses. Personal stories of encounters with Resurrection Mary are compelling. Jerry encountered Mary in the late 1950s. He saw a young woman in a white dress walking along the road. Jerry pulled over and offered her a ride. As they approached Resurrection Cemetery, she vanished. Julie had a similar encounter in the 1970s. The woman faded and disappeared near the cemetery. In the early 2000s, a couple saw Mary on the road. They swerved to avoid her, but she was gone. These stories are the backbone of the Resurrection Mary legend. Section 2. The Unexplained Vanishings, Mystery and Fear, the hallmark of Resurrection. Mary's encounters is her mysterious vanishing act. This phenomenon is what transforms a simple ghost sighting into an unforgettable, bone-chilling experience. The unexplained vanishings leave witnesses not only bewildered but profoundly disturbed, questioning the nature of reality itself. One of the most striking aspects of these vanishings is their suddenness. Witnesses often describe Mary as being physically present, sometimes even engaging in brief conversations, yet without warning, she disappears. This abruptness is what makes the encounters so terrifying. For instance, a man named Tom shared his experience from the 1980s. After picking up Mary, he noticed her becoming increasingly translucent as they neared the cemetery. Before his very eyes, she vanished, leaving him gripping the steering wheel in a cold sweat. Another notable account comes from a taxi driver who encountered Mary in the 1990s. He picked her up outside a bar, and she asked to be taken to Archer Avenue. As they approached the cemetery, she began to fade. The driver, desperate to understand what was happening, pulled over and turned to look at her, only to find an empty back seat. This experience left him shaken, and he refused to drive down Archer Avenue at night ever again. What makes these vanishings particularly unsettling is the lack of any logical explanation. Cars don't stop, doors don't open, and yet Mary is gone. This defies the natural laws of the physical world, adding a supernatural layer to her legend. People who experience these vanishings are often left with a lingering sense of dread and an unshakable belief in the paranormal. The fear generated by these vanishings is palpable. Witnesses report feeling a cold chill and an overwhelming sense of dread immediately before and after Mary's disappearance. This emotional response underscores the profound impact of these encounters. The unexplained vanishings are more than just ghost stories. They are deeply unsettling experiences that challenge our understanding of reality and leave a lasting mark on those who encounter Resurrection Mary. Section 3. Emotional Impact. The haunting legacy on witnesses. The emotional impact of encountering resurrection. Mary cannot be overstated. These experiences leave a lasting imprint on witnesses. The haunting legacy shapes how individuals view the world. For many, the initial reaction is shock and disbelief. Witnesses describe a range of emotions, from fear to curiosity. Encounters leave individuals profoundly changed. They often feel unease near Resurrection Cemetery. Encounters make some more open to the supernatural. These moments can define beliefs and interests. Witnesses are left with an unshakable sense of the uncanny. Some develop a lifelong interest in the supernatural. Stories become part of local folklore. These tales foster a collective sense of wonder and fear. Encounters challenge our understanding of reality, the haunting legacy of resurrection. Mary continues to captivate and unsettle. Investigating the legend of resurrection. Mary presents a unique challenge for both amateur ghost hunters and seasoned paranormal investigators. The nature of these encounters, fleeting, inconsistent, and deeply personal, makes it difficult to gather concrete evidence. This dilemma has not deterred those who are determined to uncover the truth behind the ghostly sightings on Archer Avenue. Modern technology has provided new tools for investigation. Paranormal investigators use equipment like EMF meters, thermal cameras, and EVP recorders to detect anomalies. Fluctuations in electromagnetic fields and unexplained voices have been recorded. The detective's dilemma also involves differentiating between genuine encounters and fabricated stories. Each new encounter offers a potential piece of the puzzle, bringing them one step closer to unraveling the mystery. The haunting figure of Resurrection Mary remains a captivating enigma, a symbol of the enduring power of folklore and the relentless quest for truth. The enduring mystery. Why does Resurrection Mary fascinate us? Resurrection Mary's tale endures because it taps into something deeper within the human psyche. Her legend blends the unexplained with the relatable, creating a narrative that is both chilling and captivating. The unanswered questions about her identity and her ghostly appearances create a sense of intrigue that compels us to seek answers. This sense of an unsolved mystery stimulates our imagination and curiosity. Moreover, Resurrection Mary's story resonates because it is rooted in real human emotions and experiences. The themes of loss, tragedy, and the desire for closure are universally relatable. Her presence on Archer Avenue is a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring impact of untimely deaths. This emotional connection makes her more than just a ghost. She becomes a symbol of our shared fears and fascinations. Another aspect of her enduring appeal is the communal aspect of her legend, resurrection. Mary's story is not just an individual's tale, but a piece of Chicago's collective heritage. It's a story passed down through generations, shared in hushed tones around campfires, and recounted in local bars. This communal storytelling creates a shared experience, binding people together through a common narrative. It's this sense of community and shared history that gives her legend a life of its own. As we reflect on why Resurrection Mary fascinates us, it becomes clear that her story is more than just a series of ghostly sightings. It's a narrative that taps into our deepest emotions and curiosities, a story that challenges our understanding of reality and draws us into a shared experience of mystery and wonder. It's this enduring mystery that ensures resurrection. Mary will continue to haunt and captivate us for generations to come. Urban legends like Resurrection Mary play a crucial role in society. They reflect cultural and social dynamics, process collective anxieties, and foster community identity. Resurrection Mary emerged during significant social change like the Great Depression. Sharing ghost stories helps communities process fears and find catharsis. These legends preserve history and cultural memory, connecting past and present. They foster community identity, creating a common cultural touchstone. Resurrection Mary's legend is a testament to the power of these narratives. The story of Resurrection Mary is a compelling example of how history and folklore intersect to create enduring legends. Rooted in historical events, her tale transforms into folklore through shared narratives. This process offers a glimpse into how we construct and perpetuate cultural myths. Historical context is crucial in understanding the origins of Resurrection Mary. The tragic deaths of young women in car accidents provided the foundation for her legend. These real-life events anchor the story in reality, making it more believable. Each retelling adds new details, ensuring the legend remains relevant and resonant. Folklore shapes our understanding of the past, blending fact and fiction into a cohesive narrative. The intersection of history and folklore highlights the role of community in preserving legends. Legends like Resurrection Mary serve as bridges between the past and the present, enriching our cultural landscape. As we conclude our exploration of Resurrection Mary, it is clear that her legend is more than just a ghost story. It is a living, evolving narrative that continues to captivate and haunt us. We invite you, the reader, to share your own stories and experiences. Have you ever driven down Archer Avenue at night? Have you felt the chill of an unseen presence or seen a figure in white by the side of the road? Your stories are invaluable in keeping the legend of Resurrection Mary alive. Share your stories, explore the legend, and become a part of the living folklore that keeps Mary's spirit alive.
Nestled in the bustling urban jungle of Bonifacio Global City, my townhouse was a cozy haven amidst the chaos. With its typical horizontal setup, the main door opened directly into my living room. A few steps further, and you'd find yourself in the kitchen and dining area. To the right of the kitchen were the stairs leading up to my bedroom on the second floor. The place was compact but comfortable, perfect for someone like me who cherished simplicity. I always kept the lights on at night, fearing the pitch-black darkness that seemed to swallow the space whole. Friday marked the end of the work week, and the anticipation of the weekend always brought a sense of relief. After my shift, my colleagues and I decided to unwind with a few beers on 4th Street. It was a night of laughter and camaraderie, a chance to forget the pressures of work. However, as the night wore on, I drank a bit more than I usually would. Instead of heading to Laguna as I had initially planned, I decided to return to my townhouse to rest. As soon as I stepped into my apartment, an inexplicable heaviness settled over me. It felt as if an invisible pair of eyes were following my every move. Despite the lights illuminating every corner of the house, the feeling of being watched was unnerving. I shrugged it off, attributing it to the alcohol and the lateness of the hour. After a quick shower, I walked into the living room. That's when I noticed something strange, a familiar scent hanging in the air. It was my perfume, unmistakably so, as if someone had just sprayed it moments ago. Confused, I hurried to my bedroom, where I was met with an even more unsettling sight. My perfume bottle, wallet, and motorcycle keys were neatly arranged on my bed, as if someone had thoughtfully laid them out for me. A chill ran down my spine. I had no memory of doing this myself, and the precision with which they were placed made my skin crawl. Panic set in as I realized it was just past 3 a.m. I quickly dressed, gathered my things, and made a hasty exit. In my rush, I forgot to charge my phone and left the charger behind. Before leaving, I meticulously turned off all the lights and checked the sockets to ensure nothing was plugged in. I was in the garage, feeling a bit more composed with my motorcycle's engine purring beneath me. My mind wandered to thoughts of food, and I momentarily forgot the bizarre occurrences inside. But as I glanced back at the townhouse, my blood ran cold. Through the window of my living room, I saw myself sitting at the kitchen table, staring back at me. I blinked, convinced it was a trick of the light or a reflection. But there was no mistaking it. I was looking at a mirror image of myself. Frozen in place, the figure sat calmly, almost mockingly, at the table. Fear surged through me, and I began to pray under my breath. Without another thought, I revved my engine and sped off, not daring to look back. The next morning, I called my landlord, informing him of my immediate decision to move out. I couldn't stay another night in that townhouse. With my brother by my side for support, I returned to pack up my belongings. The place felt different in the daylight, less sinister, but the memory of that night lingered, casting long shadows in every room. As we loaded the last of my things, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. My brother, sensing my unease, tried to lighten the mood with jokes, but even he could tell there was something off about the place. To this day, I have no explanation for what happened. Was it a warning, a manifestation of my stress, or something far more sinister? The image of myself sitting at that kitchen table haunts my dreams, a constant reminder of the unknown terror I escaped from that night. I've moved on to a new apartment, but the memory of that doppelganger still chills me to the core. Despite my resolve to move on, curiosity gnawed at me. The inexplicable events of that night refused to fade into obscurity. I decided to delve deeper into the history of the townhouse, hoping to uncover some rational explanation. With the help of my brother, who shared my growing obsession, we began our investigation. We started by talking to the landlord, an elderly man named Mr. Santos. He was reluctant at first, dismissing our questions with vague reassurances. However, as we pressed on, his demeanor shifted, and he finally relented. "There's been some unusual activity reported by previous tenants," he admitted, eyes darting nervously. "But nothing harmful, just strange." He told us about a previous tenant, a young woman named Isabel, who had lived there a few years before me. She too had experienced inexplicable events, objects moving on their own, strange noises at odd hours, and a constant feeling of being watched. Isabel had eventually moved out abruptly, much like I had, unable to cope with the relentless unease. Intrigued, but not yet satisfied, my brother and I visited the local library to dig through old records and newspapers. We discovered that the land on which the townhouse complex was built had a dark history. Decades ago, it was the site of a series of mysterious disappearances. People reported seeing apparitions and hearing voices calling out in the night. The area was eventually abandoned and remained desolate until the townhouse complex was constructed. Armed with this knowledge, we sought out a local historian, Ms. Delgado, who specialized in urban legends and paranormal activity. She listened intently as we recounted our experiences and shared our findings. The land itself could be cursed, she explained, her voice grave. Or it could be that the spirits of those who disappeared are still trapped, trying to communicate with the living. Your encounter with the doppelganger is particularly disturbing. In many cultures, seeing one's double is considered a bad omen, often associated with death or severe misfortune. Her words sent a chill down my spine. Could the doppelganger have been a warning, a premonition of some impending danger? Determined to find closure, we decided to conduct one final investigation. Equipped with a voice recorder, a camera, and a strong resolve, my brother and I returned to the townhouse one last time. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation as we entered the now empty space. It felt like stepping into a tomb, the silence oppressive and suffocating. We set up the camera in the living room, aiming it toward the kitchen, and placed the voice recorder on the table where I had seen my double. Then we waited. Hours passed with no activity. The tension grew unbearable, but we refused to leave until we had answers. Just as we were about to call it a night, the temperature in the room dropped sharply. The camera flickered and the recorder picked up a faint whisper. We strained to listen, barely daring to breathe. The whisper grew louder, more distinct. It was a voice, raspy and urgent, speaking in a language neither of us understood. Goosebumps prickled our skin as we realized we were not alone. Suddenly, the whisper stopped, replaced by a deafening silence. The temperature plunged further, and we saw it, a shadowy figure standing at the top of the stairs, identical to me in every way. It stared down at us with hollow eyes, its presence exuding malice. My brother and I froze, paralyzed by fear. The doppelganger descended the stairs slowly, its movements deliberate and eerie. As it reached the bottom, it raised a hand, pointing directly at me. The voice recorder crackled to life, repeating the same unintelligible phrase over and over. Panicking, my brother grabbed my arm, and we bolted for the door. We didn't stop running until we were safely outside, gasping for breath under the harsh glare of the streetlights. Back at our new apartment, we played back the recording. The voice was clearer now, repeating the same phrase in a rhythmic cadence. We sent the audio to Ms. Delgado, hoping she could decipher it. The next day, she called us with grim news. The phrase was in an ancient dialect, roughly translating to, "The cycle will continue." She explained that the land might be cursed, trapping those who lived there in a perpetual loop of fear and despair. Unable to shake the sense of dread, I decided to leave Bonifacio Global City altogether. My brother and I moved to a different city, far from the haunted townhouse. Life slowly returned to normal, but the experience left an indelible mark on us both. Years later, I still think about the doppelganger and the events that transpired in that townhouse. The sense of being watched, the eerie scent of my perfume, the ghostly figure at the kitchen table, all remain vivid in my mind. Despite the distance and the passage of time, I occasionally feel a chill, as if a part of that darkness still lingers with me. The townhouse remains occupied, with new tenants unaware of its sinister past. I can only hope they never encounter the terror that haunted me. For now, I focus on living my life, cherishing the ordinary moments, but always with a wary eye on the shadows, never forgetting the warning of the doppelganger. The cycle will continue.
The moon, a pale disk in a black velvet sky, offered little comfort. Its meager light struggled to pierce the dense canopy of ancient oaks lining Hollow Street. Shadows danced and twisted, mimicking the fears taking root in my mind.
Just a silly old ghost story, I'd scoffed, dismissing their warnings. Each rustle of leaves, each creak of a branch, sent a shiver down my spine. A lone street lamp flickered, casting grotesque shapes that danced on the edges of my vision. "Don't be a fool," I muttered to myself, trying to shake off the growing unease. "There's no such thing as ghosts." But even as I spoke, a prickle of fear ran down my spine. The stillness of the night seemed to amplify every sound. I thought back to the stories told in hushed tones at the tavern, tales of a spectral figure that haunted Hollow Street. My eyes scanned the road ahead, searching for any sign of life. Then, I saw it. A shadow, darker than the surrounding darkness, moving slowly towards me. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of fear against my ribs. But the shadow remained, lingering like a dark omen in the night. It seemed to glide over the ground, defying gravity, growing larger with each passing second, as if feeding on the very darkness around it. The air around me grew heavy, thick with a presence I couldn't see but felt with every fiber of my being. It was as if the night itself was closing in on me. The wind picked up, swirling around me like a living thing, wrapping me in its cold embrace. It carried whispers to my ears, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, filling my mind with a sense of dread. My breath caught in my throat and I realized I was holding it, afraid to make a sound. I forced myself to breathe, each inhale shallow and ragged, my heart pounding in my chest. Something was out there, something that sent shivers down my spine and made my blood run cold, a presence that felt ancient and malevolent. Panic welled up inside me, threatening to overwhelm my senses as I stood frozen, unable to move or think clearly. As the figure drew closer, the whispers on the wind grew louder, becoming a cacophony of voices that seemed to claw at my sanity. I strained my eyes, trying to make out the form in the shadows. It was tall and slender, draped in a long, flowing garment that billowed and swayed around it. The details of its face remained hidden in the darkness, but I could sense its eyes fixed on me. Terror, raw and primal, surged through me. My legs finally obeyed my brain's frantic signals, and I turned to run. I lay there for a moment, stunned, my breath knocked out of me. The world around me seemed to blur, and time felt like it had slowed to a crawl. Panic surged through me as I realized the figure was almost upon me. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears like a drum. I scrambled to my feet, my legs shaky, and turned to face my pursuer. The night air was cold, and I could feel the chill seeping into my bones. The figure stopped just inches from me, its form now fully illuminated by the pale moonlight. I could see every detail, every shadow that danced across its face. It was a woman, her face pale and drawn, her eyes filled with a sorrow so profound it stole my breath away. Her expression was one of deep, unending sadness. Her long, dark hair cascaded down her back, flowing like a river of shadows. "Help me," she whispered, her voice a mournful sigh that sent shivers down my spine. It was a plea that seemed to come from the depths of her soul. I wanted to run, to scream, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't tear my gaze away from her sorrowful eyes. I was trapped, ensnared by her haunting presence. "Please," she rasped, reaching out a hand towards me, her touch as cold as ice. "Help me find peace." Her voice was a whisper, barely audible, yet it carried the weight of centuries of sorrow and longing. And as she spoke, memories, not my own, flooded my mind. They were vivid, almost tangible, as if I were living her life, feeling her pain, her joy, her ultimate betrayal. She had been a young woman in love, promised to a man who had wooed her with sweet words and empty promises. He had seemed so genuine, so sincere, but his heart was as dark as the night that would seal her fate. He had lured her to Hollow Street late one night, robbed her of her innocence and her life. The betrayal was swift and brutal, leaving her broken and lifeless on the cold, unforgiving ground. Her spirit, unable to find peace, remained, forever bound to the site of her murder. She wandered the desolate street night after night, searching for a way to move on, to find the peace that had been so cruelly taken from her. "Rest in peace," I whispered, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and compassion. I hoped my words could offer her the solace she so desperately sought. As the words left my lips, a look of peace washed over her face. It was as if a heavy burden had been lifted, and for the first time in centuries, she seemed at ease. The ghostly figure shimmered, faded, and then vanished into the night. The air around me grew warmer, and the oppressive weight of her sorrow lifted. The walk home was no less lonely, but now I carried a story, a truth buried for too long, and a chilling encounter that would stay with me long after the sun rose on Hollow Street. The haunting truth of that night would linger in my mind, a reminder of the fragile line between the living and the dead.
There are places where the veil between our world and the next wears thin. Places where the echoes of past tragedies linger, whispering on the wind. These are the haunted places, the sites of forgotten sorrows and restless spirits. High atop Blackwood Mountain, shrouded in mist and shadowed by ancient trees, stands Cranbrook Mental Asylum. Abandoned and decaying, Cranbrook is more than just a ruin. It is a vessel, overflowing with the tormented energies of its past. Exploring haunted locations is not for the faint of heart. These places can play tricks on the mind. They can awaken primal fears. There's always the risk of encountering something genuinely unsettling, something unexplainable. Cranbrook opened its doors in 1996 with the noble intention of serving as a sanctuary for the mentally ill. However, it quickly devolved into a place of unimaginable horror. Patients who were already vulnerable were subjected to cruel experiments and inhumane treatments that defied all ethical boundaries. Stories of abuse, neglect and despair seep from the very walls of Cranbrook, creating an atmosphere thick with sorrow and pain. It's no wonder that the asylum has become a hotbed of paranormal activity. Cold spots that chill to the bone, disembodied whispers that echo through the empty halls, and full-bodied apparitions that appear and vanish in the blink of an eye are frequently reported by those who dare to enter. The tragic past of Cranbrook continues to haunt its present, making it a place where the line between the living and the dead is disturbingly thin. During our investigation, we experienced something truly terrifying. We were drawn to a room on the 3rd floor. Locals call it the Screaming Room. Legend has it that a patient was brutally murdered there. As we stepped inside, the temperature plummeted. An icy hand clutched at our hearts. Then we heard it. A gut-wrenching scream tore through the silence, echoing the unspeakable horrors that transpired within those walls. The air grew thick with an oppressive energy, making it hard to breathe. Shadows seemed to dance on the periphery of our vision, and the walls themselves seemed to close in on us. We could almost feel the presence of the tormented soul, trapped in an endless loop of agony. The scream was not just a sound, it was a manifestation of pure despair. It reverberated through our very bones, leaving us shaken to our core. This room, this place, held a dark history that was palpable, almost alive, and it left an indelible mark on all who dared to enter. Our investigation of Cranbrook revealed the heartbreaking truth behind its haunted reputation. It's not ghosts we should fear, but the enduring power of human suffering, the pain and despair that continue to resonate within those decaying walls. Each room tells a story of anguish. Each corridor whispers secrets of torment. The echoes of past lives linger, creating an atmosphere thick with sorrow. Have you ever encountered the supernatural? Share your stories. The truth, as they say, is out there. Perhaps in sharing we can find solace and understanding. The shadows of Cranbrook remind us that sometimes the most terrifying hauntings are those born from real human experiences. Join us as we delve deeper into these mysteries, seeking not just answers but a connection to the souls who once walked these halls. Dare to enter the darkness? Do you believe in ghosts? Have you ever felt a cold shiver run down your spine when you knew you were alone? Tonight, we're diving headfirst into a world where the veil between the living and the dead is thin. Join me as we explore the rusted gates and shattered dreams of the abandoned Joyland Fun Fair. The air is thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying wood. The moon, a pale disk in the inky sky, casts long dancing shadows across the cracked asphalt. Each creak and groan of the Ferris wheel in the distance sends a jolt of adrenaline through my veins. We're here to uncover the truth behind the whispers and legends that have haunted this place for decades. Whispers from the past. Joyland Fun Fair was once a beacon of laughter and light, a place where families came to create memories. Now it stands as a skeletal reminder of happier times, a graveyard of forgotten dreams. Locals whisper of tragic accidents, of souls unable to find peace. Some say a ghostly presence lingers here, forever trapped in the carnival's decaying embrace. Our mission is to investigate these claims, to separate fact from fiction. Armed with our cameras, EVP recorders, and a healthy dose of skepticism, we're ready to confront whatever awaits us in the darkness. But even the most seasoned investigator can't help but feel a sense of unease in a place like this. The air itself feels heavy, as if burdened by unseen eyes and unheard whispers. Clowns and carousels where laughter died. We begin our investigation at the edge of the park, near the remnants of what was once a bustling midway. The booths, now little more than rotting planks of wood, still bear faded paint promising prizes and games of chance. A chill wind whistles through the hollow eye sockets of a discarded clown mask, a haunting reminder of the joy that once filled this space. Our footsteps echo in the silence as we make our way deeper into the heart of the fun fair. The air grows colder, the shadows deeper. The carousel, its once vibrant horses now frozen in silent screams, stands as a haunting centerpiece. As we approach, I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched, our every move scrutinized by unseen eyes. Through the Hall of Mirrors, the funhouse, a labyrinth of distorted reflections and twisted corridors, beckons us with its promise of unsettling thrills.
The air is thick with the smell of dust and decay, the silence broken only by the sound of our own breathing. We cautiously step inside, our flashlights cutting through the thick darkness. As I pass by, I catch a fleeting glimpse of movement in my peripheral vision. The mirrors, once gleaming surfaces reflecting laughter and distorted faces, are now clouded with age and neglect. My heart pounds in my chest as I whirl around, but there's nothing there. A shadow, darker than the surrounding darkness, seems to dart behind one of the warped mirrors.
The deeper we venture into the funhouse, the more oppressive the atmosphere becomes. A presence in the shadows, we press on, our senses on high alert.
We reach a room filled with distorting mirrors, their surfaces reflecting fractured images of ourselves and the surrounding darkness. The temperature drops, and a cold sweat prickles at my skin. The hair on the back of my neck stands on end. And then it hits us. A wave of cold air washes over us, so intense that it takes our breath away. We strain to make out the words, but they remain tantalizingly out of reach. Our cameras pick up a faint whisper, a disembodied voice that seems to originate from the very air itself.
As the sun begins to rise, casting long shadows across the decaying rides, we emerge from the funfair, forever changed by our experience. We may not have found all the answers we were looking for, but we encountered something undeniably eerie within those crumbling walls. The Joyland Funfair, once a place of laughter and light, now holds a darker truth, a chilling reminder that some places never truly let go of the past. Do you have a story about a haunting or unexplained event? Share your experiences in the comments below. The truth is out there waiting to be uncovered.
Whispers of the Fallen, an introduction. The wind whispers through the tall grass, rustling leaves and stirring memories. This is no ordinary breeze. It carries the weight of history, the echoes of battles fought, and the whispers of those who never left. American battlefields are more than just historical landmarks. They are open-air cemeteries, forever marked by the sacrifices made upon their soil. Each cannonball blast, each musket shot, each life lost, etched itself into these grounds. Visitors have reported strange occurrences, unexplainable noises, and even full-bodied apparitions. Join us as we journey into the heart of America's most haunted battlefields. Gettysburg's Ghosts, where history meets the paranormal. Gettysburg. The Battle of Gettysburg, fought over 3 hot July days in 1863, remains the bloodiest battle ever fought on American soil. Over 50,000 casualties littered the fields and streets, their blood soaking into the very fabric of the town. Little surprise then that Gettysburg ranks among the most haunted places in America. Visitors to Devil's Den report seeing Confederate soldiers still clutching their rifles, their faces frozen in anguish. Others tell of hearing phantom drumbeats and bugle calls echoing through the night. One of the most famous stories involves the apparition of a Confederate soldier, often seen limping across the fields, clutching a bloody stump where his leg once was. Others have encountered a phantom ambulance, its spectral lights flickering through the night. Vicksburg's unquiet souls echoes of a brutal siege. On the bluffs overlooking the Mississippi River lies Vicksburg, Mississippi. This strategic stronghold witnessed a brutal 47-day siege in 1863. The constant bombardment, the dwindling supplies, and the ever-present specter of death left an indelible mark on Vicksburg. Visitors and park rangers alike report feeling a heavy, oppressive atmosphere within the Vicksburg National Military Park, the Vicksburg National Cemetery, the final resting place for over 17,000 Union soldiers, is a site of particular paranormal interest. Some have even reported hearing their names being whispered, as if the dead are trying to communicate with the living. The Cairo, now a museum ship, is said to be haunted by the ghost of a young sailor who perished when the vessel went down. The specters of Shiloh hauntings amidst the peach orchard, Shiloh, Tennessee. This peaceful name belies the horrific battle that raged here in April 1862. The Battle of Shiloh shocked the nation with its ferocity and high casualty count. Today, Shiloh National Military Park is a place of quiet reflection. But the peace is often broken by strange and unsettling occurrences. Visitors report seeing apparitions of soldiers, both Union and Confederate, wandering through the woods and fields. The eerie sounds of battle gunfire, shouts, and screams have also been reported, particularly around the anniversary of the battle. One of the most well-known stories from Shiloh involves the apparition of a Confederate general, seen riding his horse through the fog that often settles over the battlefield. Cold Harbor's restless spirits, the unending anguish. Just a short distance from the Confederate capital of Richmond, Virginia, lies Cold Harbor. This otherwise unremarkable location was the scene of one of the Civil War's most one-sided and horrific battles. In June 1864, Union forces under General Ulysses S. Grant launched a series of futile assaults against entrenched Confederate positions. The result was a massacre. Thousands of Union soldiers were cut down in a matter of hours, their bodies littering the landscape. Cold Harbor stands as a stark reminder of the brutal realities of war and the human cost of conflict. Visitors often describe a feeling of overwhelming sorrow and despair, as if the very air is thick with the anguish of those who died there. The sounds of gunfire and the screams of the wounded are said to echo through the night.
A legacy of shadows, remembering and reflecting. From the blood-soaked fields of Gettysburg to the silent woods of Shiloh, America's battlefields bear witness to a past that refuses to be forgotten. The stories of hauntings and paranormal activity at these sites continue to fascinate and terrify us, blurring the lines between history and the supernatural. Are these ghostly encounters simply the product of overactive imaginations, fueled by the weight of history and the solemnity of these locations? Or do they represent something more profound? They remind us that the past is never truly dead, that the echoes of war continue to resonate long after the last shot is fired. Have you ever experienced something unexplainable at a historical site? Share your stories. You might be surprised to find how many others have had similar encounters. The exploration of the paranormal is a journey into the unknown, and it's a journey best taken together.